Welcome back to the PCC podcast. And today we have a very, very special podcast because we are introducing and getting to know one of our coaches here at PCC so much better and so much more. So, all of Rachel's clients, you're going to love this. And I love these episodes because we get to really just get to know you better than just the fact that you help our clients with their health and their weight loss and their issues. It's really who you are and how you're embodying this journey yourself. So, welcome, Coach Rachel, first of all, to Team PCC, and excited to get to know you today.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here and get to kind of talk a little bit more and dive into everything together.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's start with this because I think the beautiful thing about what we do for a living is that it was born from our passion and things that we love to do. And that's why we love our work. So let's zoom back to your fitness journey. Where did that start? And what was that like when it started and how did it progress over the years?
Let's get into it. So I grew up playing volleyball. I started when I was like 10 or so, but as much as I loved it, I was missing it constantly because I was sick all the time. I
Mm.
grew up, standard American household, lots of processed foods, nothing against my parents at all. They did the absolute best they could with what they had, but we ate a lot of processed quick meals and whatnot. And I was sick 24/7. When I tell you there were years that I had strep, chronic sinusitis, I was diagnosed with ADHD, asthma. There were a couple of other things along the
Oh,
lines,
wow.
but there were just so many things that were constantly stacking up when I was a kid. And I had like a stomach ulcer as a kid. It was just one
Oh,
thing after
wow.
another. I was on antibiotics and steroids for pretty much 10 times a year for 10 years straight. And
Wow.
all that being said, I really wasn't eating very healthy foods, anything that was truly nourishing my body in the same aspect. So I was not feeling very well. I loved volleyball so much and wanted to be able to perform better and play my best. And I had this dream of playing in college, but I was out all the time from being sick. I was in and out of doctors' offices constantly on so many
Wow.
medications that I was just scrambling all the time to, well, I'm sick, and then I get better for 2 weeks, and then I'm sick again. So I was just stuck in this mindset of what can I do? I'm feeling so stuck here. And I felt like I tried everything. I was like, well, maybe I should go vegetarian. Maybe I should cut out carbs. Maybe I should do all these different things. And I finally got to the point. This was kind of where Instagram and YouTube and whatnot were picking up. And I
Yeah.
was watching videos and I was listening. I was trying to learn and pick up any information I could, and ended up hiring my first coach. So
Oh, wow.
leading into, I want to say, the junior year of high school. So I had to have like my parents
Wow.
sign off on having this
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I did not feel well. So I was like, I need help and I don't know what to do. So I hired my first coach and had an amazing experience. And not everyone is lucky enough to do that. So I am
Yeah.
super grateful for
That's great.
a great experience that I was like, wow, I'm still not feeling, perfect, but I could actually feel like this on a day-to-day basis. And I just started to learn how to actually fuel my body and that, less isn't necessarily more. I have to actually eat and I'm not going to have to be on these medications forever. So at that time was when I started learning how to eat and also learned that as I'm eating better, I'm not getting sick as often and I'm starting to feel better. And yeah, that was kind of where everything started, just dealing with my own childhood illness and a plethora of different symptoms that just continued to present themselves. And I got sick of it and was like, let me take this into my own hands. And then I found
Wow.
a coach that was amazing.
Very cool. Okay, I did not know that. And that's, I mean, really unfortunate, that you did have that circumstance of just getting sick left and right. But I think that's kind of the cool thing about what we do is we turn our pain into purpose and we use it to fuel our career and our vision there. So then, okay, so then you're in high school, you had a coach, started to feel better, and then obviously it's been another decade or so since
Yeah,
then. So what's the in between there?
fill in the space, absolutely. So I went into college at that point, knowing I wanted to do something in the health field. I was maybe I'll become a nurse, maybe I'll become a PT, athletic trainer. I was looking at anything and everything, PA. And I ended up settling on, I'm going to go to school for exercise science, kinesiology. And I want to minor in nutrition and psychology. And come to find out, where I went to school, you can't minor in nutrition. So I got as close as I could without the official title. But I had such a passion for understanding the mindset behind why we do what we do and why we are the way we are, and really wanted to dive into that as well while I was in school. But I did not play D1 volleyball, but I did play club and loved that. But I spent time throughout college did internships with a CSCS, strength and conditioning coach in the area, and then was going to the school's nutritionist and just trying to learn and pick up information wherever I could to bring with me wherever I decided I should go next. And during this time was when I started taking online clients. I think I literally posted on Facebook and was like, if anyone would like help with coaching, I will be taking on, 20 clients for free, because I just wanted to get as much exposure as I possibly could. And so we all start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But it ended up growing and I fell in love with it. And that was when I got my certified personal trainer, or got my certification prior to actually taking on clients, but really dove into that realm. And I was like, I'm going to start taking some in-person. I'm going to do anything and everything I can. I remember at one point in college, I think I had like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 jobs. Like I was just doing so many things all over the place and I loved it. I was never really had like the traditional college experience where I did live at school. I didn't, go out and party a ton or do anything crazy. I was working. I was trying to better myself in any way I possibly could. But with all of that, I ended up senior year. Let's fast forward a little bit to senior year. I'm trying to decide what's my next steps. I'm graduating. I'm going to test for my CSCS. Do I want to pursue more of the strength and conditioning route? Do I want to go back to school and go to school for PT? Where's my head at? And then I had the opportunity to become a flight attendant. And somehow, some way, I ended up deciding this is what I'm going to do for a little bit. And I am going to continue coaching, because if we rewind for a second, during college, after I'd got my certifications underway, I had the CPT, nutrition and exercise specialist under my belt at that point. I was like, hey, let me start actually turning this into a business. Let me start actually having paying clients and not do this for fun anymore. So I was like, well, I could always do this while I'm a flight attendant. So for a few years after college, I did the two. I was flying anywhere and everywhere. I actually started bodybuilding during that time. And that was a journey in itself, bodybuilding while flying, being on call all the time, and then having clients myself. It was quite an experience. But bodybuilding, I think a lot of what I learned ended up coming from that experience. And obviously I mentioned some of my childhood experience and whatnot. And it would rear its head. And it was so interesting all throughout college. Anytime I'd get sick, it was the one time that I'd eat something that was ton of sugar, or I'd do something that was a little more extreme, and my body was just so sensitive. So I ended up having to dive a little bit deeper into all of that and figured out I had a couple of different autoimmune situations going on. I had subclinical autoimmune, so subclinical Hashimoto's. And that was one of the reasons that even during my bodybuilding experience, I really, truly struggled to put the weight off. So I was putting in, it felt like endless cardio. My food was getting low. I was doing all the things right, but I couldn't get it figured out. And so finally got that figured out after going through, 5, 6, 7 doctors, something like that.
Yeah.
And found one that was a little bit more of the naturopathic side. He was like, no, this is actually subclinical, and was able to help me get some blood work pulled to figure out where I needed to supplement there. And so diving deeper in my health journey has kind of had me questioning things. And, after I did 2 years of bodybuilding preps, and my first post rebound phase, I did not have my cycle for upwards of 9 or 10 months post show.
Ooh.
And that was when I was just so in it. I was junior, senior, or just a year out of college, excuse me. And I was at the point where I'm like, I absolutely am going to lose my mind if I do not get my cycle back. Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And
Yeah.
I know that you deep dove into the effects of birth
Mm-hmm.
control and all of this. And I was not on it at that point. I did have a nice 10-year period of my childhood where I was, but I really, really struggled going to doctor after doctor after doctor, being told the only way you're ever going to get it back is by getting on birth control. And at this point in time,
Aish.
I was not, I frankly, I was not educated enough to know why that's the case. And I knew
Yeah.
that wasn't true. I was like, no, I know there's ways I can get it back, but I wasn't educated enough to say, but this is what I can do to make it happen. And
Yeah.
so that was when I worked with my first functional medicine doctor and had to do my deep dive there. And that's where some of that passions come from. But I know I've gone down a rabbit hole with all these different things, but to kind of get back to the point of the question, to get to where I'm at today, after I quit flying, I went all in on my coaching business, and all of the years of experience I'd kind of come together, and I did a few more certifications through IIN to get a gut health certification and gut health specialist certification, as well as hormonal health certification, because I just noticed, like I said, from all of that experience, I was so deep in those realms that I wanted to know more and feel like I was actually educated enough to speak in those things and be able to help other people moving forward that were struggling with the same. So that was
Yeah.
when I opened the business. And then I coached myself for about a couple of years in total prior to opening my business. I've had about 6, 7 years under my belt, but found PCC and I'm very excited to be on the team now.
Here we are. Yeah. No, that's actually really great context. A lot of our experiences kind of mirror each other in funny ways. Like just what you said about like not having a regular college experience and juggling all these jobs and like just constantly like being in that like tunnel vision, like better myself, coaching business, whatever I can, like get my hands on to learn more, to be a better coach all through college. Like, what's wrong with us? Why are we so crazy? um, but it is really it's really cool because I think the reason that like our team has come together so seamlessly now is because like we really do have this kind of multifaceted background of like the bodybuilding background. Oh, we get to see what happens when you go to extremes and what happens kind of in that isolation based environment. And then with our functional health and going through those journeys, it's what does diving deeper really look like and how do we find answers there. But I think it's really cool that like every experience that you've had, every painful moment, you've really turned into purpose of how can I learn about this and then pay it forward and not just accepting like any one person's answer as truth, right? Because like you said, you've probably been through tens of hundreds of doctors at this point with your journey. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. I think you nailed it on the head. I think it's really easy to go in and blindly trust what you're hearing or what you're reading on social media or anywhere, doctor's office, whatever. But to
Yeah.
really, really do your research and have the experience to back it has made a world of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when it comes to then coaching, obviously you have had a number of evolutions through your coaching journey, and I can definitely say the same. What have you kind of learned throughout the years about coaching, getting clients the best possible results, maybe some of the mistakes and learning experiences that you've had that have helped you grow to where you're at now?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say many of, like I said before, to kind of go back, a lot of what I've learned throughout the years has come from my personal experience that I've kind of been able to apply to coaching. So, all that being said, I think that I really, really struggled with the all or nothing mindset. And
Mm.
I caught myself, whether that was in school, feeling like I needed to work 24/7, I had to spread myself as thin as possible, or whether that was bodybuilding, just kind of clinging to extremes on either end. Um,
Yeah.
really had to learn and apply to coaching. How do I get out of that? How do I fix that within myself? And that was where the behavior change aspect came in. So I think that is such an underrated part of coaching that is just, I mean, the most important. Anyone can create the foundation, create the habits daily, but can we sustain them and understand why we've struggled to maintain them in the past? That's where we have to really deep dive into some of those doing the internal work and asking the hard questions and really sitting with them and trying to understand, okay, but yes, it's hard. Yes, I don't want to some days, but why? Why is that? And what is my barrier? And I would say those are some of the struggles that I personally had to experience and have used my knowledge to be able to translate to clients. So.
Yeah, that's important. And it's kind of like, I always like to come back to whenever clients kind of label themselves as, I'm just lazy, I just can't, I'm just not motivated. Like, I actually fully believe that those words are just scapegoats. Like, they're just a shroud over, like, but what's really going on? Because when we're judgmental towards ourselves, we are not open for curiosity. We're not open to like actually learn what is going on behind that. Because if we judge, then we're assuming that we know what the situation is. But if we're curious, we say, well, what is making this hard right now? Like, what is making this difficult? Then we can look at the circumstances, the situation, our mood, the factors influencing it, and then maybe actually come up with a solution. So I think a big piece of that, the behavior change, like you said, is like learning how to get curious with yourself instead of just like constantly judging ourselves because we're not perfect, right? And that's how that like all or nothing behavior change like really kind of overlaps. Is that right?
100%. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it on the head exactly. I think that it really does. A lot of it is the internal work, and that's the hard part of the coaching experience and really having to dive deeper than just hey, we need to really lean into training and nutrition and steps, hydration, all of that. Really, really dive deeper into the questions that hit harder.
Absolutely. Right. And it's like, those things are the vehicle to like pull out the questions. Cause it's like, okay, you're obviously crushing your steps. You got your water down. Nutrition is where it's spotty. Why? Like, let's figure that out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
very cool. Okay. So now that you're here, a newest member of Team PCC, we're really excited to have you. I would love to just kind of get to know your vision a little bit better for the impact that you now want to have within our mission, our vision, and how you're going to carry that through with your own vision.
Yeah, I would say one of my biggest passions, purposes I see behind coaching, and really what I want to bring to the team is empowering women that they're just because something that they're experiencing is common doesn't mean that it's normal and yet alone optimal. So there are so many things, whether that's bloating, sleep troubles, whether it's, I mean, even acne, some of them chronically being sick, hair loss, any of these things that have become so common today, that does not mean they're normal. And just because you go to a doctor and potentially get some like base level testing done that comes back as potentially within or just within the normal range does not mean it's optimal. And we really, really have to trust our bodies and trust ourselves. Especially us women, we put so much pressure on ourselves 24/7. It is so very important to slow down, to breathe, and really, really trust what you're experiencing and trust that, hey, if you have these symptoms and you don't think they're normal, and you're going to a doctor or whoever that's telling you it's fine, you're fine, just, take this medicine, do this, you'll be fine, and just putting a Band-Aid on it, but you want to get to the root of it, then keep digging deeper because there is someone out there, us, that wants to help you get to the bottom of everything and want to have you feeling your best, looking your best, and actually thriving in day-to-day life because it's so possible.
I love the word you really like focused on there is trust. And I've actually been having like a number of conversations with clients lately that this word keeps coming up and it's this theme I'm seeing of who we work with, right, is like super type A, like we're big achievers, we're crushing in every area of life. And the thing that comes along with that, not just the perfectionism, the all or nothing, but like it's this propensity to look for like a milestone, a mile marker, a standard to measure by that's external, right? And so we're always looking for like, what's the calorie number, or what's the number of steps I need to hit, or what's the exact X, Y, and Z. But what you've brought it back to, I think, is so important, is bringing it back to trusting what's within. And we're so out of touch with that because everyone on social media has an opinion for the best way to do X, Y, and Z. And really the only way that you find the sustainable and or like right solution for you is by like really looking inward. So like building trust with yourself, with your body, with your mind, like it's so underrated. And I think it's such an important part of this journey. So for the women that might be listening, like they who are struggling with finding that trust with themselves, they don't know how to listen to their gut or their intuition because it's been, they've been straying from it for so long. Like, where would you recommend that these women start to better build trust with themselves in that way?
That is a good question. I would say it's showing up for yourself daily, and it's the little things. It's the little things, and it's celebrating the little wins. We don't have to always have this big goal every single day and this to-do list that if you don't check everything off of, you're a failure. That's not how you need to approach things. You have to approach things with the mindset that, hey, I am going to get this one little thing done right now, and that's step one. And we're going to give myself a pat on the back for that, because it's just really developing again, just the little things and the habits that you can create on a day-to-day basis. And it's things like habit stacking and just creating the daily tasks that you can do that when you complete them, you're like, wow, you're really, truly building that trust within yourself that you can, if you can do these little small things every day, not only are the small things going to add up and create big things, but you can also do the big things. So it's showing up, but also giving yourself grace, I think plays a big role too, because we aren't supposed to be perfect. There isn't a perfect. We really just have to allow ourselves to live in the uncomfortable spot that sometimes we can't do it all. And that is okay. And you have to trust your body when you can't do it all and you feel like today I just really cannot check everything off, then trust yourself in that moment too. So it is there's not this, one way to do it, but I do think that really starting to show up and trusting what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, and knowing that it might just be one little task, but that could be, if you're doing it day after day after day, you're going to create that trust within yourself that you can do the little, big, hard things, everything.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I think the thing that the women that we work with really miss a lot of the times is giving themselves credit for the small things. Like we're like, oh, I'll celebrate when I lose all the weight, but like everything along the way, nah. And so I think really making sure that like you're intentional about, hey, I drank my water today. I got my steps in today. Maybe I didn't do everything, but here's what I did do. And it's that focus on like what did you do versus the stuff that you lack, right?
That little reframe. And yeah, exactly. I think, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. It said trying to reconnect. Sorry. Just want to make sure.
Oh, you're good.
But no, it's like I said, the reframe. And like you mentioned, you can look at a check-in sometimes it could look like, wow, they had a really great week. But then you read something that says, I think I had the worst week ever. Like this one day, I didn't hit everything. And I'm like, again, let's take it back, big picture sometimes, and not just focus in on, oh my gosh, like this one day. In the scheme of things, if you can look at if you have 10 empty glasses and 8 of them are full or half full, or you're making progress every single day, but you have a couple that are empty, that is still progress versus having 10 full cups that you can't sustain over time.
That's a great analogy. Like I'm imagining putting little clip arts of cups on the screen and like having them pop up on a reel. But we should like do that demonstration for like a creative, because it's really important. Like I think more women need to hear that. Like look at the cups that you did fill up versus the like 1 or 2 that you didn't, because we're like so prone to hyperfixating on, I got a 98 on the test. Which two did I get wrong?
Right.
Right. But what about the 98 that you got right?
Yeah.
So
Like literally.
yeah. Cool. Well, then I feel like that's a lot on coaching, but a little bit more about you. I would love to know whatever you're comfortable sharing,
Yeah.
current fitness goals, fitness aspirations, challenges that you're going through yourself right now in this phase, so your clients can relate to you better as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going through, I would call it, I guess, a little bit of a health phase myself. I am getting married at the end of the year, so super excited for that. And
Yay.
obviously still working hard in the gym, prioritizing all of my, nutritious foods and whatnot. But I would say probably the past year to year and a half or so, I've had a plethora of symptoms. I've had a ton of hair loss to the point where like I am wearing
Mm.
extensions right now. I don't know if
Oh,
I've talked to you about this at all, but I have extensions in because this was about the length of my hair. I know some of you might not be able to see, but if you look on Instagram or whatever,
yeah.
um, this is how long my hair was, and it got down to like here-ish just from falling out.
Wow.
And so over the past year and a half, the hair loss, the brain fog, inability to find words, my like ADD. It's like I would joke, you have a little bit of ADD prior to, but now it is off the charts. I've just had a ton of random symptoms, sick all the time, just pretty bad cycles, just a ton of things. I could go on and on and on. But
Yeah.
point being, I was like, there's something going on here deeper that I need to dig into. I ended up doing a Dutch test about a year and a half ago and had adrenal dysfunction, adrenal fatigue symptoms, and as well as some hormonal imbalances. And dug a little deeper there, got to the root of all of that. But then we moved, and I was like, okay,
Mm.
like so excited. We're in a new house. This is going to be awesome. And I kept experiencing more and more symptoms, and they just continued to pile up. And I'm like, what's going on here? Recently, started working with a functional medicine practitioner, Lacey Dunn. Shout out, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She has helped me come to the root of everything, and we have a lovely mold problem going on. And I have mold toxicity, so that's kind of the root of everything that I've been experiencing. And
Mm.
there have been days that just feel like an out of body experience. And I've tried to really, I've had my days where I sit in it and I'm like, what the heck is this? This is not okay. But then
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be something that I can use in the future and
Yeah.
help clients, help people, and help people through the struggles because I know it's not easy. I know it's not fun. I know it's hard. And getting through some days, I'm like, how am I going to make it through? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you make it through. And there are so many tools and things that I've learned throughout this process that I'm excited to be able to bring to PCC and bring to any clients that are struggling with similar.
Yeah.
So while I might not be in this crazy exciting phase of my health journey right now, it's real and it is what
Yeah.
I'm experiencing. And so while it might not always be fun, there is a reason behind it happening. And I'm excited to be able to take everything I've learned and, help others with it. So kind of in the heat of it right now, we just got the mold testing back and we'll be going through some kind of remediation process now. So
Yeah.
we'll have to keep everyone updated throughout all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I'll honestly be really excited to, let's say, do an interview when you're out of it and you're
Yes,
either in a new environment or the mold is gone and you are feeling night and day different. That'll be cool to reflect on because we
yeah.
know that that's coming. It's just a matter of time.
Absolutely, exactly. And I cannot wait for that too. I'm like, I'll be a little more clear spoken, a little less all over the place, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell the audience what I told you off air. I was like, if this is you like not there, like I can't wait because you're pretty high functioning as it is. So
I appreciate it, but I'm excited to get past this little bump in the
yeah,
road and, feel
yeah. But
possible.
I appreciate you sharing it though, because sometimes it's just comforting for our clients to know that like we don't have it all figured out. And that's why I've kind of been more vocal too about like the hormonal and estrogen dominance type things
Oh, yeah.
because we're not all the way out of it yet, but it's gotten better, and we're just sharing the journey along the way. There's that quote. I don't know who the heck came up with it, but it's like, show your scars, not your scabs, or something like that, where it's show the scars, meaning like they healed up, it's in the past, it's a story from back then, versus the scab is like it's still this open wound that's healing. Which for a while, I like really liked that, because I was like, yeah, I don't want to share anything I'm going through until after, so I can tell the story from a place of feeling great, feeling awesome. But sometimes, I mean, nowadays in social media too, like the skepticism in the industry is at an all-time high, right? Nobody knows who to trust, and for rightful reasons. So I think the more that we can share like just our vulnerabilities in appropriate ways, I think is really important, because like just for people to know that they're not alone, and that even experts in the field, like we rely on coaches, we look to other resources, we need the help too, and we're going through it as well. I think is even like more comforting for our clients, because then they're like, you know what, my coach is a human being too. I feel more confident to confide in her or to ask more questions and things like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I was just thinking while we were talking, but that I did want to include, just because
Yeah.
to tap back into the mold talk really quick,
Hmm.
just something I think for its educational purposes only here. I'm not
Please.
saying, hey, go get tested for mold by any means, but I had so many other, like I had candida overgrowth and the adrenal fatigue, and there were a bunch of different underlying things that were occurring that were due to the mold. So if you're noticing along your health journey, hey, I had this gut dysbiosis, I had, maybe candida, H. pylori, SIBO, whatever it is, and then you fix that and you're still experiencing symptoms, it's just something to kind of be aware of and keep in the back of your mind that it was something I would have never even given thought to, that,
Yeah.
hey, maybe this is mold. But just something to be aware of. And now it's something that we have that some expertise in that we can work with moving forward. But just wanted to put that
Oh
out
yeah.
because I do think that it's something that's very, it's a very niche market.
Yeah, well, I think it's important too, because like kind of what I'm gathering is like, there's isolated instances where it's like, okay, I go get a Dutch test for my symptoms, got to the root of it, everything's good from then on, right? But then your situation was like, I kept doing these healing protocols, and like shit just kept showing up,
Yeah.
right? Like one after the other after the other. And like maybe there's something more to it. And the thing about mold that's, I guess good and bad, is that it's your environment. Like it's literally not even something that you are doing. Like you are actually a victim to your environment in that sense. And so being able to find out something like that really is like a sigh of relief, like, my body's not just revolting against me,
Oh,
is
yeah.
what I would imagine, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There were moments where I was like, I feel like a crazy person. Like, I know this is not me. I've never felt like this in my life. The
Yeah.
emotional roller coaster of it and the, you know, constant up and down of sick and then not sick and then sick again 2 days later. And I'm like, what is going on? So
Yeah.
just having the ability to dig deeper and really figure out what was the root of everything was so extremely helpful. But yeah.
Love that. Well, I think it's written in stone now that we're going to have to do an episode on mold and like learning more about it.
Yeah.
Um, because not something I've experienced, not something I actually have any expertise in, but I would be really curious to pick your brain on. So we'll have to come back for part two.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love that.
Cool. Well, is there anything else that you feel like we have not covered about you, your journey, your mission that you want to share as an introduction to yourself?
Oh gosh. I know we've covered a lot and we've gone over a lot of different things, but I'm just really
Yeah.
excited to be here and help make a difference in as many women's lives as humanly possible and just help people get out of that all or nothing mindset, help people learn that being healthy and having a sustainable life that can include the foods you enjoy, and you don't need to cut out everything. We need to stop with that restricting mindset and really lean into enjoying the things and what can you add versus what can you take away. So
Yeah.
just really, really excited to be here and help women set the foundation and feel their absolute best and optimize versus normalizing
Hell yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah, but I'm excited.
Yeah. Excited to have you and just super pumped for what you're going to bring to the table, the impact you're going to make, and just what we're going to be able to do together. So, if you guys watch this episode and you are a client of Rachel's, go ahead and just share this episode to your story, tag both of us, let us know you watched it, give us feedback, send Rachel a message, let her know that her story impacted you in a positive way. And make sure to follow her on Instagram. We'll put the Instagram handles and whatnot in the show notes. So that is that for today. Thank you so much, Rachel, for just being open and sharing your story to the depth that you did. And we'll have you back on soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
All right. Thanks, guys, for listening.